Lovelies, it's Rebecca Rogers, and it is time for another weekly episode of Am I the Bad Apple? If you've never joined us before, people send in situations where they're not sure if they acted appropriately or not, and we judge them hard. We decide if they're the good apple, the bad apple, the crab apple. Some amazing human designed this crab apple logo, and I love it, and it's adorable, and we're using it. If you want to send your own bad apple submission, you can do so at the subreddit that I am still learning how to use. It is r/amIthebadapple. And without further ado, let's get started with this week's episode of Am I the Bad Apple? Apple number 1. Am I the bad apple for grounding my daughter for the entire summer? My husband, 40 male, and I, 40 female, have 5 kids. 15 male, 13 male, 13 female, 12 female, and 10 male. Our 13-year-old son is the sporty one. My husband and I aren't into sports, but ever since our son was little, sports have always been something he's loved, and we've supported him through that the best we can. He's done tons of sports over the years, but the two he's stuck with are lacrosse and karate. Our son started getting into the history of these two sports, and about 2 years ago, he started getting very into Japanese culture. He's really into anime now, and a few months ago started taking Japanese lessons. Our son also loves collecting Japanese antiques from this huge antique mall near us. We're white, so we try our best to research and make sure our son's being respectful when he talks about something or tries to learn something related to this culture of interest. We just want to be respectful. A few days ago, I got a call from a mother of one of his twin sisters, my 13-year-old daughter's friends. The friend's brother was snooping through her phone to find out who her crush was. But while he was snooping, he got a notification from this group text that his sister was in. My daughter and her friends were mocking some of the items that my son had bought and were making various racist jokes about Asian people. The boy was punished for snooping through his sister's phone, and the sister was punished for her racist jokes. But apparently my daughter played the largest role here. After finding out, I told my husband, and we were both very angry. Our daughter was still at her friend's house when we found out, but when she got home, we had a serious talk with her. She actually kept saying that it was no big deal and kept making more mean comments about her brother. So we went and got her brother and told him everything that was going on. He started crying. He is a very emotional person and asked to go FaceTime his friends so he could vent to them. His sister had the audacity to not want to apologize for any of the hurtful things she was saying. As a result of her behavior, we decided to ground her for a month, which is about when school starts. She can't see her friends, she can't use her phone, and we're also giving all of her allowance to her brother for the entire month, just so he can put that money into buying more stuff that he likes, the stuff that she mocked. Additionally, we bought a middle school level book on Japanese history and culture that we're gonna quiz her on when she finishes. When my parents found out, they said we were being too harsh on my daughter, and our daughter is giving us a hard time and calling us a bunch of names. So I just need to know, am I the bad apple? There are so many things I have questions about. You find out that your daughter is being a bully and a racist, like 2 things of which are awful on their own. And you're like, well, when she gets home, she's in so much trouble. My mother, if she found out I was doing anything like that, my mom would be like, you're at the neighbor's house, you have 15 seconds to be home or you're gonna be in even more trouble than you already are. If I wasn't at a neighbor's house, she'd be like, I'm on my way to get you, be outside waiting for me. Like, you have a right to be angry, right? You're like, I'm so angry, I'm so mad at her, but like, let her finish playing at her friend's house. Like, you have a right to be angry, right? Bullying is not okay. Being racist is not okay. She's doing both at the same time. And again, I'm not saying you don't have a reason to be mad at her. You definitely do. She's acting inappropriately, absolutely unacceptable. But even some of your reactions, I'm so confused about. First of all, why are you telling your emotional 13-year-old son all of the mean things that his sister is saying about him? You can relay the message and just say, hey, your sister's acting very inappropriately. She said some not nice things. We're gonna make her apologize. We wanna make sure that she understands what's so wrong about this. But you don't have to, oh, she made fun of your hair, she made fun of your clothes. Why are you doing that to him? Words matter, okay? Those insults are gonna stick to him. That's gonna create resentment. To me, like, the goal here is to make her more understanding of Asian people and to create a better relationship between her and her brother. And you're starting off by making him self-conscious about all of the things that she's saying about him, and you're bringing him into the conversation as she's actively hostile and actively saying not nice things. Why? That doesn't make any sense to me. And then on top of it, you're like, oh, we're gonna take her allowance and give it to the brother. So you're gonna fuel more of the fire, is what I'm hearing. Like, it would make so much sense if you took her allowance and put it towards some organization or program that was about anti-racism, or, you know, some kind of program that helped Asian Americans, something like that. That would make sense. Rewarding the brother with her allowance does not make sense to me. That just creates more resentment. So instead of creating a more understanding relationship between your two kids, you're just giving them reasons to hate each other more. I just don't get it. Again, I don't have kids. I say that all the time, and I feel like I need to when talking about parent decisions, because I don't have kids, you know? I don't know what it's like. But I really don't understand this. And even at the end, you're like, I question whether I made a good decision because our daughter's giving us a hard time. Yeah, she's a teenage girl. Of course she's gonna give you a hard time about punishing her. There's not many teenage girls that are gonna be like, oh, you're grounding me for the rest of summer? Good idea, Mom. I'm going to use our new icon today. I'm going to go with crabapple because, again, 100% justified in the grounding, 100% justified in being angry. That makes sense to me. The way you're going about resolving this conflict makes absolutely no sense to me, and in my mind creates more problems down the road. So I'm definitely going with crabapple. That's my vote. Apple number 2. Am I the bad apple for giving my daughter's room to my stepdaughter? I got divorced 8 years ago because I found out my husband was having an ongoing affair with a coworker. We have a daughter called Lila together who we have split custody over. My ex-husband married the coworker that he cheated on me with, and I ended up marrying my now husband Miles 4 years ago. Miles had one daughter, Emma, who's 1 year younger than Lila. Lila started university this year, a few months after her father also moved cities. Since his new house was very close to her new campus, it made sense for us to save money on accommodation and for her to live with him. I was disappointed, and I'll admit a little jealous that he was going to be living with her while I didn't get to see her much. But I knew it was best for Lila, so I was all right. Lila moved in January, and there haven't been any issues until she came back to visit for the holidays. In the 3-bedroom house Miles and I bought together, all of the bedrooms have walk-in robes while only 2 of them have en suites. Miles and I took one of those and Lila got the other because she was older and Emma didn't mind. After Lila moved out though, Emma asked if it would be alright for her and Lila to swap rooms so she could have the en-suite and the extra space. Since Lila was going to be home very rarely and Emma was going to be doing an apprenticeship in our town, therefore would be living here for years to come, I thought it was reasonable, so we did the swap. Everything was fine until Lila came back home a few days ago and saw what happened. She asked me, what did you do? And so I explained. Lila started accusing me of favoring Emma over her own daughter. She said I was forgetting all about her and that I was probably glad she left so that I could have Emma all to myself. She was yelling in front of everyone and I could tell how embarrassed Emma was. Lila stayed in a motel that night and didn't take any of my calls. The next morning she came back and she said she was sorry for how she acted and that we could just forget all about it if she could have her room back. I told her there was no way she was getting the far better room just for it to sit there empty 95% of the time when Emma was living there permanently. Upon hearing that, she left again, and she must have driven back to her dad's house because later that evening, he called me and told me that I was being a jerk for favoring Emma. I wasn't trying to do that at all, and I didn't think that it would be such an issue, but now I'm starting to doubt myself. So, am I the bad apple? You moved this girl's room without even telling her? I need to figure out what an en-suite is because there's like all this like room with robe and room with en-suite. I don't, Oh, it's just a room with a bathroom attached. Okay, that makes sense. I've never heard it called that before. Okay, makes so much more sense. The logic makes sense, right? She's away at college, most of her stuff is at her dad's house, and it clearly really bothers you because one, you started talking about getting cheated on 8 years ago and about how it's not really fair that she gets to live with him. Like it's clearly still something that's bothering you, right? And that's okay, like everyone moves on at their own pace, right? But I feel like part of the issue is that you're kind of competing with her dad in your head a little bit. And that was like a first impression thing. The moment I saw that, I was like, oh, she's not over this. Like, getting cheated on happened to me in high school. Like, it's not a fun experience. I can't imagine what it would be like with a spouse. But seriously, I don't know what that's like. I'm sure it's an insane experience, especially when a kid is involved. But I didn't feel like it related to the story at all. Which makes me wonder if part of the reason that you didn't tell Lila was like some kind of tension about the fact that she's living at her dad's house. Again, the logic of why they should switch rooms, it makes sense, right? Lila's away at college, most of her stuff is over there. Emma's here full time, it makes sense she would need a little bit more room. It doesn't make sense for you to not tell Lila until she comes home and just sees her room is gone. College is a time where people, especially girls, are really trying to figure themselves out and, you know, can be feeling homesick. And you're her mom. She doesn't get to see you very often. I'm sure she's super homesick and she comes home and you just got rid of her room. And I know that you just swapped it, but I can see in Lila's mind it being like I went to college and mom got rid of my room. I just don't see why a 5-minute phone call of just, hey, this is going on. You don't even have to ask because it is your house. Like, you do have final say. It would be nice for you to ask her and just say like, hey, is this okay? But even just the 5-minute call of letting her know, like, this could have all been avoided and you just chose not to. And I'm not saying that Lila's completely justified either. You know, the hotel thing or the motel thing, wherever she stayed, that's a little excessive. But clearly she's seeing this as I don't have a place at home, my mom is favoring Emma, because that's even what she went back and told her dad. Mom is favoring Emma. That's how she's feeling right now. Or she didn't take the 5 minutes to call her. This whole thing could have been avoided. So I don't disagree on your reasoning. I disagree on how you went about it. We get to use the icon again. I'm going crabapple. 100%. That's what I'm doing. Crabapple for me. That's my vote. Apple number 3. Am I the bad apple for making a trans kid uncomfortable? I, 15 female, have a pretty common name. For the sake of this story, I'll call myself Jessica. I've gone to school with pretty much the same group of about 40 kids since the start of middle school, so everyone pretty much knows each other. Within those 40 people, 3 of them are named Jessica, including me. One of the Jessicas recently came out as trans and now goes by a different name, and for the sake of the story, we'll call him James. Everyone was super supportive and respected his new name and pronouns. But after a few weeks James came out, he came up to me and asked if I would be willing to go by a nickname because when people spoke to me or about me and used his dead name, he felt uncomfortable. I calmly explained that I like my name and I don't want to go by a nickname. James looked disappointed but politely nodded and walked away. A few hours later, I was talking to the 3rd Jessica about what James had asked earlier. Jessica told me that James didn't ask her to change her name. He only asked me to change mine. I thought this was unfair, but I brushed it off because I don't like to get involved with drama. Ever since I refused to go by a nickname, I've been bombarded with rude comments from James's friends. They call me transphobic and racist and a lot of other words that I'm not gonna say. I talked to my friends about it and they say it's not that big of a deal, that I'm making it worse by refusing to change my name. I get where they're coming from, but I really do like my full name. I also don't get why James only asked me to change my name and not the other Jessica. I really don't know if I'm in the wrong for refusing to change my name, so I need to know. Am I the bad apple? I'm just gonna say it. No, you're not the bad apple. I think it's so great that the whole class is really supportive of James and calls him James and respects the pronouns, but I do think it is excessive for them to expect you to change your name, you know? When it comes to names like Sarah and Jessica and Matt and Tom, like there are so many kids with these names in classes, right? You can't Expect to never hear the name again if you change it. Whether you change it because you come out as trans and, you know, it becomes a dead name, or you change it legally just because you don't like your name, you're most likely not gonna never hear your old name again. And even though I'm sure it's really difficult when it's a situation where it is a dead name, I'm sure it's very difficult. I've never experienced something like that. I'm sure it's very hard to hear your dead name repeated over and over, but I don't think it's reasonable to expect other people to change their name. And I get he's not asking for her to legally change her name or anything, just go by a nickname, but I think that is a little excessive. I don't think James is being malicious. I don't think Jessica's being malicious. Now the other kids, I get their intention of trying to support James, but they are being a little malicious. I don't like what the other kids are doing of trying to bully her into doing whatever James wants, and I don't think that's James' intentions. I really hope that's not James' intentions. I think James is really struggling to make this transition work and feel comfortable and just make sure that, you know, feels safe and secure at school. And I think the kids are trying really hard to be an ally, but are not going about it the right way. And also, yeah, I don't understand why one just goes asked, not the other. The only thing that I can think of is maybe James was planning on asking both, but when it didn't go as well with the first Jessica, he thought, okay, maybe this was a bad idea. I'm not even gonna bother asking the other one. If that makes sense to me, I can't think of why else that would be the case. Last one, apple number 4. Am I the bad apple for ignoring a wardrobe malfunction? I'm a special education para, but 10 years ago, I had an incident as a substitute that still haunts me to this day. I was subbing at a high school and the kids were taking a test. I was just floating around the room checking to see if anyone needed help, but on this particular day, there was a high school girl wearing a very oversized tank top, and she was not wearing a bra with it. She shifted in her seat and had a huge wardrobe malfunction. Her tank top was hanging so low that one side of her was just hanging out of her shirt, completely exposed. I panicked because I wasn't sure what to do. I'm a full-grown man, and I was instantly terrified of any accusation that might be brought against me if I just pointed out, hey, I noticed you fell out of your shirt. And I didn't want to embarrass her, but on the other hand, there was still a room full of kids, other guys included. It wouldn't be any better if one of them noticed and pointed it out. I sat there agonizing for a few moments, but then she shifted in her chair again and the problem was fixed. She turned in her test shortly after and there were no more incidents that day, thank goodness. Sometimes I still think about what I should have done differently. Was I terrible for not saying something at the risk of another student noticing? Would it have been worse if I did say something, and would I be accused of something sinister? I don't know what else I could have or should have done. So, am I the bad apple? Wow, that is a stressful situation. Honestly, I don't know what I would have done if I experienced something similar with a male student. Like with a female student, I feel like I would be comfortable to go up and just say like, hey, you need to fix your shirt. You know, even when I'm out like in public and I see girls that have like a tag sticking out, like I try to like, hey, I'm just trying to help you out. So I feel like I would be comfortable enough to say something if it was me and a female student. I don't know what I would do if it wasn't. I can see myself texting one of my guy colleagues at the time and just being like, hey, I need your help. And I can also see them texting me if they were in that exact situation, just saying like, hey, I need your help, like come next door real quick. Because I know one of my colleagues, whenever a girl needed female hygiene products, he'd just, hey, Miss Rogers, she got you. I don't think the agonizing was unjustified, you know? I don't doubt that there would have been some parent that would have tried to, well, why were you looking? Well, ma'am, she's just out. I get the whole, you know, like if it's hot outside, a girl should be able to wear a tank top, right? Like my shoulders are not, oh, my shoulders are showing. Like the dress codes are crazy, right? The severity that is placed on, like it's, You're at school. You do not need to be in such a flowy, revealing tank top that you're popping out of them. Like you're not at the club, right? There's a time and a place for different kinds of attire. I would never show up to a school in clothes that I would take to the club. You're at school and you're a minor with adult men and women around. Just why? When you do things like that and push the line so hard, that's why it's so difficult to get some of those rules about a freaking tank top and showing shoulders. That is why it's so hard to fix that problem, because you're pushing the line so hard. It's counterproductive. Like, help yourselves. Why is it so difficult to just make sure your private areas are not hanging out at school? And I don't want this to turn into like a micromanaging what women can wear on their bodies and things like that, but be appropriate when you're going to somewhere like school. I don't think that not taking action makes him a bad apple in any way, shape, or form. I can see the panic going through his brain. Good apple. I'm gonna stop rambling about it, and I'm just gonna, good apple. Tallying up the votes, I got 2 crab apples. Again, I'm just so obsessed with this little logo. And 2 good apples. Did you get same? Did you get different? I think there's a lot of situations here that people could disagree with me civilly. Remember, we're all friends here. But I do think that there's a lot of situations people could have very, very valid reasons to disagree with what I'm saying. That's totally fine. I would love to hear your reasoning down in the comments. Let me know if you got the same 2 crab and 2 good as I did, if you got something completely different. I love to hear your reasonings. I love to hear your justifications and your opinions. I still might not agree with you, but that's okay. You know, conversations are healthy. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the little bell down at the bottom so that you can be notified for next week's episode. And as always, if you want to submit your own bad apple story or want to go see some of the other ones that are submitted, I do have a subreddit that I'm still learning how to use. r/amIthebadapple. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys next week. Thinking about changing my little background. It's a little chaotic. We'll see. Maybe it'll be different next week. But I will see you next week. Thank you for joining me, and I just love you guys so much. Bye, my lovelies. Mwah.